Divers, Alec, Peirce, Scuba, tech tips. Now these, I'm going to do a couple of very technical tech tips. People ask me all the time, do I need special tools to work on my regulator? It's a two-part answer to that. One, you should be asking, first of all, should you be working on your regulator? If you have a bit of expertise and you have the service manual, access to parts and things like that, and you have another regulator which you can use for your regular diving while you're working on yours, think about that for a second. Anyway, and the answer is no, you don't need special tools. No, that's actually not true. Most work on a regulator can be done with normal tools, day-to-day tools, pliers, screwdrivers, sledgehammers, stuff like that. There are some cases, however, where special tools absolutely are required. I'm going to try to show you a couple of those. Now, this is the first regulator I want to share with you, because I know a lot of you guys are double hose, two hose nuts. So I want to show you this particular one first. This is an old DA Aquamaster, and this was made when US Divers was at the West Pico. And so this is 60, 61, 62 in that time frame. So this is not new by any stretch of the imagination. This is one of the few that I have left. I've sold most of my regulators. This is one of the few that I have left. And it's a pretty typical example from that time frame. Brass body, got a silver or gray finish on it. Pretty straightforward. This particular, the DA was a two-stage regulator, as it says right on the front. Had the hookah attachment, which is just a low-pressure attachment. You can actually use this for putting on an octopus, a safe second, or even a BC inflator. There's ways to do that. We won't talk about that today. Anyway, what I wanted to show you on this is some of the things you can do with ordinary tools, and then some of the things that you have to have specialized tools for. So first of all, one of the most irritating things about servicing a double hose regulator is getting to the inside. Now the later models, after about 1965, thereabouts, the two bodies, the bottom box and the top box, were held together by a ring clamp, a single ring that went around, and it came together and had a nut and a bolt, and you just get it up. But prior to that, all of these were held together. Now I'm talking by all of them, I mean US Divers and Voight. Okay, they're held together by these body clips. They're called body clips or box locks sometimes, but clips, body clips. And they're a little, I don't know if you can zoom in there, Kevin. Can you zoom in on this silly little thing in my hand here? Because the shape of it is kind of important. And if you can see that right there, you can see that it's a clip, and it comes around and grabs. It's almost like an upholstery clip. But if you look closely, you'll see that one part, in this case, the bottom is a sharper, deeper hook, and the top is a shallow hook. Okay? All right, Kevin, zoom back out there and kind of remember that while I show you how to get one of these off. Now, the thing that I found most irritating about doing this is the fact that it's very difficult to do without damaging the regulator, without marking it. And I hate to do that. I hate to do that on my own, but I hate even more doing that on a customer's. Customer brings a regulator to Alec Peirce for service. He gets the regulator back in much better shape. Working, first of all, but also pristine. I polish the chrome, hand it back to him, no scratches, and it irritates the devil out of me when that doesn't happen. However, to get these clips off was not overly difficult. There was no special tool for it. And you get your screwdriver under the shallow part and then just very carefully lift a little bit. Can you see what's happening there? And you lift a little bit and watch and see the clip comes up like that. No more. Now don't do any more with the screwdriver, because if you keep going with the screwdriver, you're going to mess up the body box over there. Now take a pair of side cutters like this and grab it like so and just keep pulling it off like so. I make it look easy. I've done more than two of these, and hopefully if you've done this very carefully, you'll leave no marks. Now if you're concerned or if it's tough, what I used to do is I would put a piece of tape on there, not masking tape, it tears instantly. Put a piece of plastic tape, electrical tape, duct tape. I don't like duct tape because it leaves sticky goo on there. Piece of tape right in tightly on both sides, and be very, very careful that you don't force anything, because you very easily, you can see on here, somebody on here previously has made some actual dents in the body of the regulator. But if you get those clips off, then you're on the inside. And now we can look, so that's easy, and that's ordinary tools. That's easy. And we're going to look at the inside. I'm going to show you some more things more tools that you need and can use off your own workbench. But in one case, something very special. And now I've got all those clips off, okay? There should be 7 clips, 2, 4, 6, there's missing one. These regulators all had 7 clips, right from the U.S. Divers Voight service manual, 7 clips. And in fact, there's special positions for them, which you can get from the service manual, which is available easily, lots of places. So 7 clips. It'll work with 6. It'll work with 3. Or it should have the 7. And the reason is you want to compress the bodies together, because those 2 bodies compressed together, let me show you, they actually hold the diaphragm in place. There's the big diaphragm. See? It goes all the way around and squeezes that tightly in place. So you need enough clips and enough pressure to hold that diaphragm so it can't slip out. So we get that out. Now let's get this thing out of here. Sometimes these stick. If they do stick, soak it in water for a few minutes. That'll help. Get it soft, warm water, and then try to get a little spot in there, and very, very carefully get a fingernail. There's something soft, plastic under it, and scoot around the edge like that, and it should come off. Okay, rubber tends to stick. And there's the whole insides of a double hose regulator. By the way, you double hose guys, in a few minutes I'm going to start talking about a special tool for a single hose. Okay, and you can turn this video off then. You guys are single hose fans. And just bear with me for another minute, and we're going to talk about single hoses. Anyway, okay, there's the inside. So, and most of the inside, in fact, disassembly of these can be done with ordinary tools as well. The very first thing you need to do, if you have the service manual, is get this lever out. It's called the horseshoe, and that horseshoe, as you see, has 2 servos. You can see those, Kevin? And you see they're worn, because that's where the 2 stubs on the diaphragm sits right there. Diaphragm goes in, pushes on that horseshoe. 2 stubs, 2 legs of the horseshoe, whatever. So that comes out. Now to get that horseshoe up, it's held in rather strangely by just a little metal bracket that's got a twist in it. So and you twist it to lock it. So to get it out, you simply twist it straight. And then that just lifts out each side, and that thing comes out like so. And there's your horseshoe. It just falls out like that. There's the horseshoe there. Okay, and now underneath, you can see a whole bunch of junk in there. In here, this is your adjusting nut. And I don't know if you can see in there. Can you see the spring in there, Kevin? Maybe not. But there's a spring underneath that, and that's where you actually adjust the intermediate pressure. Now, if we just take an ordinary screwdriver, and you'll have to forgive me a little bit here, guys. You know, when you see videos like this, where the guy is repairing something or rebuilding something or something else like that, in almost all cases, what he has done is previously disassembled the entire mechanism. And he's made it nice and clean, and he's lubricated all the bits and pieces, and then put it back together, you know, not really, really tightly, just a little bit snugly, and then it makes it easy. And then he takes it apart. I didn't do that with this. This is the way it was. Now I need to get a socket wrench. You see this nut right here? That big nut, not the little one. That big nut has to come off. Give me a sec while I get a socket wrench. It's just ordinary, out of your toolbox, a socket wrench. What is this? 3/4. 5/8 fits over that bolt, and you just loosen it with the wrench, like so. There we go, and just take that out of there. So this is the second stage. That's what it is. You may have guessed that because that's where that horseshoe sits. The diaphragm pushes in and out, and there's the second stage. So you take that out, and there's your second stage seat in there. It doesn't look very good. In fact, the rubber is completely gone, and the rubber is laying in there. You can see it laying inside there. I'll just pop this off and dump that rubber out. I'm just showing you about these tools, this idea of tools. So far, we've used a wrench, a socket, a couple of pliers, a dabba-doo, and it's been pretty simple. Now we're at this point, and even this is fairly easy. We just need to get the proper Allen key to fit in here, and then I'm going to show you the special tool we need. This particular nut right here on top is in fact your IP, intermediate pressure adjusting nut. Okay, so this increases or decreases the pressure on the first stage spring, which is also increasing or decreasing pressure on the first stage high pressure seat. So you adjust the intermediate pressure by using an Allen key, proper size. You put it in, turn it clockwise to increase the IP, turn it counterclockwise to decrease the IP, intermediate pressure. Now on a two-hose regulator, the difficulty is that all of that is inside. So you have to adjust the IP on the inside like this before you put the second stage on, which you just took off, all that on. On the second stage regulator is much easier, which I'll show you in just a moment. But this is a little bit of an issue, is adjusting the IP on a two-hose regulator. There's another problem. In order to adjust the IP on a two-hose regulator, you have to have a two-hose regulator IP gauge, intermediate pressure gauge. They don't exist. You can't buy them anymore. You can't get them anymore. Even when they were available from U.S. divers, there weren't a lot of them. So you have to have a two-hose regulator IP gauge. If you want one, you're going to have to make it or buy it from somebody and pay a lot of money. This is mine. And this was made for me, just a piece of brass and turn and get a machinist. He has to do it just exactly right. You mount a gauge on the end and a bleeder on the side. This is a pretty straightforward design, but it has to be made to fit. And that fits right in there, right into that second stage orifice. That's the hard orifice, sometimes called the hard seat, right in there. So this, you see it there, Kev? This design, this IP gauge for a two-hose regulators just screws right in there. It's got a rubber tip on it, and that rubber tip goes down and mates against that hard seat down at the bottom, like so, snugly. And now, when you turn on the air, this gauge will show the IP. So the IP shows as 90 psi. That's not enough. We want 110. So you now take your Allen key here and you increase it to 110. If it reads too high, you turn counterclockwise and decrease it until the gauge reads exactly 110 psi. Once you've reached that, you turn off the air, bleed it, and take out this special gauge. So there's one case, guys, where a special tool is required. It is possible to adjust the IP to an operating condition without actually knowing the exact IP. But if you want to set the exact IP, you have to have one of these. There's no other way around it. So then after you've done that, you put it back together, put your second stage back in, put the horseshoe back on, and clamp these clips back on, and they clip on. Make sure you get the right one in, like that, and they clip on with a standard pair of channel locks. Just squeeze them tightly, evenly, all the way around, spaced out as they're supposed to be, and you're done. So there's a case, in this particular case, where you can take this regulator almost completely apart using ordinary tools, sockets, wrenches, screwdrivers, and pliers. But right smack in the middle of the whole process, you need to have a special tool. Okay? And that's the whole idea of this entire video. Let's talk for just a minute about tools for servicing a single hose regulator. Like it or not, you double hose guys, there's a heck of a lot more single hose regs out there. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And if you're in love with two hose regulators, I love them too. I was trained on a two hose regulator in 1958. I still have it, my own. And I love them. I've dived with them many, many times. But, you know, for the average day-to-day diver, and certainly modern divers, a single hose, there's lots of advantages to a single hose. This is the first stage only of a single hose regulator. Lots of ports on it, knob, the whole darn thing. You know, you recognize it. Let me give you a couple tips. First of all, there's a special tool. That's what this video is about, special tool. There's a special tool. This is it. A special tool that's used for servicing. And this special tool is nothing special. Can you have a special tool that's not special? Sure. You can? Okay. All right. That special tool fits into the port, just like that, snugly. And then you can take this, you can clamp this, you can clamp this in a vise. And then you can work on the regulator. That's all it's for. Yeah. Well, but you know, it's really handy, because holding it and trying to put a bit of pressure on some nuts and bolts and so on is a nuisance. It really is. This $60. Now, it's just solid, and probably are cheaper ones, but no point getting a cheaper one. You're just going to strip the threads and break something. So get a decent one, and it's probably about $60. That'll be what this is, XS Scuba. At least $60. Really, really nice tool. What a lot of people don't know is that particular port is 5/16 fine. Yeah, so you can put a same thread as on that, and now you got this to hang on to. Okay, now if you're working on a fairly new, this is an old single hose first stage, there'd be a high pressure port. Here it is, high pressure port. It's even better because it's stronger. It's 1/2 inch fine, 1/2 20. So go to your local hardware store or Rapasco, whatever you have, and say, I need a 2 inch long, half 20 hex bolt. He'll know what you mean, or half fine, whatever you want. And it just screws right in. You just saved yourself 60 bucks. So you don't need a special tool for that. However, you do for other things. I have not disassembled this either. We're going to take this off and let me show you. This comes off. You use ordinary. There's a great big seat clip that holds that on there. All these things come off. There's flats on there, ordinary wrenches. Again, just like that double hose we did earlier, 90% of this regulator will come apart using ordinary tools. There's a little clip in there that holds the filter in place. To take that out, you need ordinary, good quality, not like these, good quality sear clip pliers. Let me see if I can get that out now. There we go. Oh, it popped out. So there's all popped out. It's under pressure. So there's the filter. You can come down here now, Kev, if you want. So there's the clip I just took out. Okay, you see that? Yeah. And there's the filter. And then there's the spring, like that. Then there's a balance chamber, which is really just a little brass container with an O-ring inside. And then there's another spring on top of that. I'm going to line these all up for you to take a picture of, Kevin. And then underneath that, there's the high pressure seat. You see the rubber seat. See the insert in there, Kevin? Okay. Seat's a little, sometimes it's called a top hat seat, like that, like so. So there's all the parts. And there's a pin. And that pin goes through, and the diaphragm pushes on the pin, pushes the seat down, lets air through, and on it goes. If you understand how regulators work, I don't need to explain all of that. So that's how that whole thing works. It's just that simple. So where's the special tool that's needed? Well, let me show you. When you go to put this back together, here's the problem with this particular regulator, and there's a few other ones like it. This happens to be a U.S. Divers con shelf, not new by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, they've been around for, I think they still make a con shelf. A reg called a con shelf anyway. And here's the problem. You can put the pin back in, and the pin goes through the hole in the middle of the seat. You can get the seat back in, maybe. There we go. The seat's down in there properly. And you can put the spring on. And you can put the balance chamber on, okay? This is all after it's all clean and lubricated. Now that we're getting up pretty high now. Now we got another spring to go on. We used to have another spring to go on. And then you have the balance chamber, which is really just a little brass container with an O-ring, all clean, of course, ready to go. And you see it sticking out already. And then we got another spring to go on there, like so. Okay, how are we doing here? Then we had the filter, a nice new filter. If you didn't know, by the way, filters usually, not all, but most filters have two sides. One side is very smooth looking, very fine grains. The other side is coarse looking, it looks much coarser, like sandpaper, fine as opposed to coarse. The coarse side goes down, fine side up. I think that's the way it is. Check the book. And then that goes on there like that. And then your little clip goes on. Now I did a video a while ago explaining that these clips, these little sear clips, can you see that, Kevin? Yes. They have to go in the right way. They have two sides. They have a round side and a sharp side. And the sharp side has to go against what's holding it in place. So that sits up there on top of that. Okay, now what we have to do, we have to compress all that stuff down in there. All the way, there's a lot of pressure, quite a bit of pressure. And then at the very end, we got to get that clip to snap into the groove while we're holding it down. And I've seen service people using a pencil eraser, most commonly. You use a pencil eraser. They push the filter and the spring and the seat and the balance chamber and the other spring down in there, and they push it all the way down here. And then they got the clip, they put the clip on and they reach for these and the whole thing flies apart. I've seen it so many times. There's a solution to that problem, and this is a common problem. It's not just this particular regulator. Other ones are similar. Decor, Mares, there's several like this. What's the issue? What's the answer? Well, the answer, of course, is to get a special tool. There's another reason why this is critical. With many of these regulators, and this particular one is an example, once you put the pressure on that soft seat, a little T or umbrella seat that we just put in there, once you push it down against the hard seat, it takes a set. You get one try. If you push it down hard and it pops out, you have to put a new seat in. Yeah, I know. expensive and irritating. So let's put it all together. Let me show you how this works. Here's your special tool. Here it is. The special tool sits on top of the whole thing, specially made to sit there. That's why it's called a special tool, because it's specially made. And we got that spring. Now there's our balance chamber, and there's our next spring sits on top of that. Okay, and there's the filter sits on top of that, and then you put the clip in, sits on top of that. See, it's just that simple. Ready? You all ready? You ready for this? So this little device keeps it all in place, and this device goes down and pushes it all together. There's a case where a special tool is really, really important. There's a couple other examples I'll show you. When you're putting together a piston regulator, on a balanced piston regulator, the edges of the piston, the bottom edge, the umbrella, it's up there, but the other end, the long, narrow end, has a very sharp edge on it. And it has to slide in through the balance chamber, which has O-rings and backup rings. And almost invariably, that sharp edge will cut the O-ring or the backup ring, and you have to start over because the regulator leaks. What do? Well, what you do is you get a piston O-ring guide. It looks like this. I need you to take a close-up, Kevin. Right here, there's a little ridge. So this smaller part fits into the bottom of the piston. And now it's smooth. And you just push the whole thing down past your O-rings, backup rings, and it goes in nice and smoothly. This falls out the bottom, and you haven't cut anything. Pretty neat. One more example I'll give you. This simple little plastic tool. So simple. This is for the Sherwood SR1. I have heard many, many service people say to me, I hate servicing SR1s. I can never get the parts of the second stage together easily. Done. Just like this other tool I just showed you. If you have the right tool, it's quick, easy, efficient, and it's done properly. If you don't have it, you're going to be frustrated. So anyway, most cases, to summarize, most cases you can take two hose, single hose, doesn't matter. You can take all your scuba gear apart and largely reassemble using ordinary tools, being careful not to hurt anything. But in a few cases, I've shown you a couple of examples, there are more, you need to have a special tool. Those special tools are available. Go to a company called scubatools.com. How obvious is that? Or go to Trident Dive. 2 words, Trident Dive. Trident Dive. TridentDive.com. Anyway, I hope there's something in there for you technical guys. Talk to you soon. Alec Peirce. Scuba. Bye-bye.